Welcome to the Andy and Friends podcast. I am your friend Andy, and in this episode, I am talking to Luke Wright, who is behind the Cellhasher. The Cellhasher is a really cool crypto and non-crypto tool that makes using cell phones for various purposes to earn money super easy, or at least way easier than it would be otherwise. And in the past, these Cellhashers per unit have made $40 to $50 per day, or $1,000+ per month, depending on which things you jumped into, or maybe even more if you got into other opportunities. And based off of the things we talk about in this video, a couple of current opportunities, a few things you can run right now on this device, it could be making you $450 to $500 or more per month. So we talk about what the Cellhasher is, how it works, who it's for, DIY versus building pre-configured, all the different things you can do that are crypto and non-crypto related, all these earning opportunities and more in this episode, so you do not want to miss it. Let's jump into it. And here we are on the podcast with Luke. Hello, Luke.
Andy, thanks for having me once more.
Good to see you again. So let's jump straight into this. If you've seen the title, this is primarily about the Cellhasher. So what the hell is the Cellhasher?
Yeah, the Cellhasher, some of you know, some of you don't. It's a series of phone clusters put together somewhat like your hash boards in an ASIC, just containerized in a way that you can use them for compute.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
And since it was like 7 or 8 months ago, I had you on the podcast talking about the Cellhasher. And at that time, I think it was just you building every single one by hand. Mm-hmm. So from there to now, what's the company look like now?
Yeah, so thankfully, the company has grown. We have about 7 people, 2 to 3 overseas. When I say 2 to 3, there's a part-time that we have working with development for us now, which is great because I was doing development and building and all of that. It got to be a lot, and thankfully that's good. So hiring out people has been a really good process to speed up kind of shipment and just being able to get more things done and see the vision play out just a little bit further. But yeah, we have 7 people now, so still very small, but nonetheless, it's cool. It feels kind of like a startup still, but it's definitely a full-fledged business, and I never really wanted to build a business and do like ASIC kind of mining manufacturing stuff, but it kind of just fell into our laps, and here we are today. Yeah.
It's pretty cool. I mean, going from 1 to 7, that's a 7x increase in the size of the business, which is pretty awesome.
True.
So does this mean you are no longer hand building every single one yourself?
So correct. I hand build my machines.
Okay.
But I do have people that help me build the machines. And if we have a busy day or there's a lot of orders that come through and we just need to get stuff done, or like say we're going to a conference and we know we're going to be out for the week, then I'll jump in and just go on and start building with them. Yeah.
Yep. How long does it take to go from 0 to the machines finished, ready to like put or in a box, ready to ship out?
So when I built my first one, like my first personal one, it took me actually like 2.5 days. Simply because I was messing around with the voltage. I didn't understand that I was using multiple phones. I wasn't just using one model of phone. And that was where I went wrong, because multiple models of phones will have different voltages that they operate at.
Yep.
It's within a really small range, but it's important when you're trying to set a PSU that will power all of these phones at a certain voltage rate, right? So yeah, it took me 2.5 days to build the first one. And now we can do it roughly in about an hour. So it's dramatically gone down, but that's also with, other people. So there's kind of like an assembly line process that it works through. So yeah.
Multiple people, and I assume like various tools, specialized tools, and a very like,
Yeah, finally have like a space where there's just a whole kind of line, and it's just, we have a solderer, we have a person who does the cables, then we have a person who disassembles phones, and then a person who tests all of the, the boards just to make sure our controller boards are working.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very cool. So, the very first time I encountered the Cellhasher, which actually pre-Luke, because there's like some, kind of prototype ones out there, and then Luke has basically perfected the Cellhasher at this stage. But it's, when I first encountered it, to me, it was almost like a cell phone ASIC. I mean, the box itself looks kind of like, a crypto miner ASIC box. And inside, they're slotted 20 cell phones. Then we'll get into like which ones you use and stuff. But the big difference maker here is so many people who do like cell phone mining and earning on cell phones, especially with crypto stuff. And they build a big farm, and it's like a wall of phones.
Yeah.
Inevitably, a big percentage of those phones that eventually turn off or decommission because they leave the batteries in them, and the batteries bulge and stuff. So, like, walk me through what you do with an actual cell phone to put in the box to make it this whole thing better process.
Yeah, I love it. The original way of running phones was like great for the time being, but if people wanted to take it seriously, it had to change. Had no idea how it would work or even if I could power the phones in the way. So what we end up doing is you take the backs off the phones. Thankfully, Androids are really modular, where you don't have to have a crazy specialized screwdriver set for each phone like you do in Apple.
Mm-hmm.
So you can pop off the backs. Most of the time, they're just like a snap, and you pop them off, take the SIM card trays out, and then you'll have a cover that covers the motherboard, and then you have a charge board. So sometimes people call it a baby board, motherboard, baby board. But you take off the motherboard, it's like 6-7 screws, and then from there you're accessed to the battery, and the battery has a BMS cable, like a ribbon cable that will then kind of come up from the battery and connect to the motherboard.
And that's the battery management
BMS, battery management system.
Yes.
Or service. To be honest, it's BMS, battery management system, is what I've been calling it.
Yep.
Could be the service portion. I have no idea, to be honest. But yeah, so you unclip the battery, which is just kind of like lifting it with your fingernail or just any little tool. It pops right off. Kind of like a PCIe slot, but it's a lot looser, to be honest. That's why they have the cover on the motherboard to kind of keep all those connections secure.
Yep.
What's good, though, is when you take off that, the cover, you expose the motherboard, so airflow's even better for cooling.
Yeah.
But anyway, with the battery, you go ahead and we'll take some isopropanol to kind of loosen, because there's glue on the bottom of the battery. So if you're doing it yourself, I'd highly recommend doing that, because if you're trying to pry the battery out and it's stuck to the bottom, you can rip through the battery. You don't want to do that with lithium because it can catch fire.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to be playing around with that too much.
You don't want to kink. Yeah.
Yeah. Thankfully, a lot of the newer phones, actually, that have been made in the last 2 to 3 years come with like battery kind of tabs that help you pull it out. But some of the ones that are in our Cellhashers do not. So we actually have to take kind of like a putty knife then after the isopropanol goes in there, make sure it's unconnected so we don't rip the cable, because we reuse the cables.
Yep.
And then we pop the battery out, and now you just have the phone without the battery, and you're essentially good to go. We make the cables then. We use the same BMS connector that was on the battery. We remove it from the terminal or the two pads that are connected positive and negative on the battery. And then we actually solder positive and negative wire to a 2-pin like JST connector that plugs into our control board. Yeah.
Very cool. I do want to get into specific things you can do on the phones, what you can mine or what you can, app you can run or other things. But just generally, like broadly, like what are people doing with these phones in the Cellhasher boxes?
Yeah, I'd say a good majority right now are still mining Varus, because that's kind of all they really know how to do, because there's just more videos out there and tutorials out there. So a lot of people are doing that. I've seen a really big uptick in people actually using, like, we call them farm apps in Cellhasher in like our community. And that's like survey apps or watching video ad apps. And just recently there's this guy who goes by Stacy in our Discord. He just kind of runs that farm app channel. He's posting almost every other day, and he did $35 on a single phone in one day just by watching ads and surveys. Very tedious.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's probably trying to work on making some scripts, and that's something like I think I'd love to actually make sort of automation for in the future. I don't know when I'll get to that, but it's definitely something, because it's a whole area of revenue that I haven't really experienced myself too much. Mainly because I'm more crypto based than I am all that other based. But it's been kind of like a what do you call it when you have like your shark, a symbiotic relationship in a certain way. It just kind of came about, and it's like, oh well, I guess that's cool. Yeah, it works in the same way. It's a different side of crypto, but so a lot of people are starting to kind of experiment in that. Whether those apps are like good or not, I have no idea. So you might want to be careful. But he has been getting payouts directly to his PayPal, and he's been showing screenshots in that. So right in the Farm Apps channel in the Discord, you can see that. A lot of people now are actually doing Acroast as well. I'm sure a few people are common or familiar with that. Simply because it's kind of a deep in play on cloud computing with Androids.
Yep.
Their goal is to aim to sort of be like the Google, Amazon, whether they'll get there or not for just kind of cheaper compute. Just the chips are a lot easier to get. There's 8-9 billion people on this planet, and a good majority of them have cell phones, whereas there's probably not that many servers on the planet.
No.
So the chips are a little different, and obviously with phones, you have your processor all on the board, your RAM all on the board, your storage all on the board, everything, your GPUs on the board. It's all integrated, so you don't actually have to then go and buy your server rack, your power supply, your motherboard, your RAM separate, your storage separate, your CPU cooler separate. So I think that's just awesome, in my opinion. But yeah, those are kind of the main ones that people are using. And then people are doing a few other things, which I don't know too much about, but people are making services like servers where they sell like Minecraft servers and they host them on phones. I've only had one person do that. I thought that was really unique. And I'd love to actually make a video on that or try that or host like a Cellhasher Minecraft server or some sort of LAN game server of some sort. But there's one person that's been doing that and messing with that. And then there's also people that are using it to like, of course, bot the media platforms.
Right.
So I'm not too familiar with that, but like Guatemala or in Eastern Europe, where you can get phone plans for like $5 for unlimited, people are then going and then selling it as a service to where, since each phone has its own SIM card, you have different IPs, of course, and you can go and like people's social media posts. And one guy had just sent us a message. He's like, "Hey, I'm looking for 20,000 devices. I'm trying to build a Spotify service for plays and streaming." So apparently people are doing good in that business if the guy's trying to
That's
order
wild.
20,000 devices, which I'm trying to figure out how the heck I'm going to get 20,000 in one go. But yeah.
That's a good problem for you, though.
Yeah,
it's a challenge, but you do make the sale, which is good. So, okay, that's a lot of wild stuff. So one thing I want to make really clear here in this is like, what you're selling is not a specialized. I mean, it is specialized in that you're putting phones into a box, but at the end of the day, they are phones in a box.
Yes.
Like they're normal phones. So this isn't associated with a crypto project or some other mobile earning company or project. If you went defunct, if Cellhasher the business, which I hope doesn't happen, was went out of business and you stopped existing as an entity, this thing can continue working because it's just phones in a box at the essentially. Now you do have some software, which I'll talk about next, that makes it unique, but there's lots of open source or paid apps you can connect to all these phones because it just interfaces through USB. So I love when you can buy something in this realm of crypto stuff where it's very versatile. It's not tied to one specific thing. If a company goes defunct, you can still use it for other stuff. And clearly, what you've just mentioned, people who have bot farms are buying these, or people who are doing non-crypto earning apps like advertisement watching, video watching, whatever. So that's really, really cool. I think a huge advantage to what you're doing. So, okay, phones in a box.
Yes, sir.
Interface with a computer via USB. And how are you interfacing with that box? Talk to me about how the software works and how you utilize it.
Yeah, no, great question. So we have a data cable. It's kind of like a printer cable that will plug into the control board, the USB hub per se. So all the phones, of course, have a USB connection for data. They plug into the control board, and then we have a cable that interfaces to your computer. Thankfully, we're working on a version where you won't have to actually use a cable. It'll all just be online. You'll need it for, of course, one time to establish the connection. But eventually it will be wireless, and it actually can run over TCP, or just over the internet. So over Ethernet or over Wi-Fi, and it will connect to our software as well. So the software that is currently available is great because it's just minimalist. It works for what it needs to work. It's pretty clunky, of course. I mean, I was the only one doing it for a while trying to build all these phones. But now that I have a few extra hands, we're pushing kind of more like a web-based version of it.
Oh, cool.
So we don't want people to have to download. They can download it if they want, but we don't want people to, worry about what they're downloading, because that's a big thing, especially like in crypto. A lot of people that are going to come and watch this, especially from like maybe your audience, are more than likely going to be, crypto native people. And that's just a common concern, is always downloading software. Like I personally myself, like even 3 years ago, and I've been seasoned in crypto, fell for the classic downloading software on a computer where I had an EVM wallet address that had well over $10,000 on it, and completely drained. Lesson learned there. I knew it in the back of my head. I shouldn't be downloading software from, random places on the internet.
Yep.
So I don't want people to have that, common fear or conception,
Mhm.
even though it is all on GitHub and they can look at the stuff and whatnot. I do believe we'll open source the majority of it as well, come terms, because I do believe in open source development. I love the take that, BitAxe has gone, even with the PCB boards that they make, they open source those. I do believe we'll open source those in the future, but as of right now, we're still fine tuning all of our boards. We actually just met with a manufacturer in the United States because of all the tariff and stuff going on. And it's actually nuts, the price comparison versus doing it, overseas versus doing it here. But it's something that we're definitely consider for lead times and making, the shipment process is going to be a lot easier, fully complete. And they offer services where there's like some assembly. So that takes out places where I actually don't need to hire more people to then assemble the devices because they can pre-assemble them. But aside from that, the software that we're working on will actually have like LLMs involved, and we're going to have a script creator. And the idea with the script creator is going to be for those like farm apps that we're talking about. So people will use ADB, and ADB is Android debugging. That's how we actually connect the phones to the computer to communicate it with it through the Android, service.
Mhm.
So we're actually going to build a script creator with an LLM. So, like ChatGPT or Olama. This will just be like an API key. So you'll use an API key. We will have one that runs on the phones, but it's not going to be anything crazy. So I don't think you're going to be running the latest hardcore models on all 20 of these phones.
Yep.
It's just hard to do that with the phones currently.
Mhm.
So you'll be able to create scripts to then potentially automate like your processes for watching ads
Mm,
or the apps that take surveys.
that's cool.
We will have to do a lot of learning because I'm assuming these apps will they have probably background checks and fault checks to figure out if there's automation or botting happening.
Yep.
Um, I'm not like a big fan of botting, but in a sense of utilitarian formation, everything's botted these days. So building that script creator for people to, make bots, make scripts for their phones where it could even go with the crypto route where you're mining Varus for 12 hours a day, but then you want to switch to, Cubic for another 12 hours, even though Cubic does actually have an idle period when you're mining
Mhm.
to where natively in their miners, you can actually run Varus.
Mhm.
So you could actually just mine Cubic. And then when it's idling, it mines Varus automatically. So there is that route. But you could get creative with that too for just like full on automation and setting batteries and stuff like that. Because some like Samsung phones, for example, will have like weird battery quirks where if it falls below 20%, or if it's at 100% for a long period of time, it will actually like kick down the processing. And it's just built in natively, which is great because Androids are secure in that matter. And thankfully, like that can happen, but it is in some use cases kind of annoying. So those kind of scripts will help with that. And we have a whole battery management system and a new mirroring system. But ideally, it should be able to run in your browser, or you will still be able to download an app version of this as well. But yeah,
Very, very cool.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Yeah, like the software, is certainly could be more streamlined in some ways,
mhm,
but it's still significantly better and easier to use than the other alternatives
right.
out there. So it's really cool that that's included with, and that if you buy a Cellhasher, you just get access to that.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, and I do wanna say, like, you can totally use alternative softwares
Hmm.
with it. At the end of the day, like, what we said earlier is it is phones in a
Right.
box, and I don't think I would've started a company to sell an ASIC
Hmm.
on one coin,
Yep.
like, in that matter. I'm more of a utilitarian, like, I want utility, I want people to be able to do, like, whatever they wanna do with it.
Yep.
So that leads into the aspect where people can use software. A common one is like Panda. It's just they don't have like the mining stuff built into it.
Mhm.
That's like where we have like easy configs where you can pop in a flight sheet now in the new software and then just hit one button. Next thing you know, it's mining. Or you can install a Bitcoin miner and lottery mine for a little bit. It's more seamless in terms of like the crypto industry. But there's a lot of good softwares out there if you just want to like, mirror the screens and do that. There's a lot of smart people. So a lot of good products.
Love it. It seems like in the Discord, there's a lot of really good resources. Is that something that, if you buy Cellhasher, you get access to your Discord?
Yeah, it's all free. The documents are free. Thankfully, everybody happens to be like a decent tinkerer in there where they love just kind of sharing what they're doing, which is great, right? Because it does work in a way for like advertisement, but it also shows that people are like being able to do different things with it. And then not only that, when people have questions, thankfully I'm not the only one that has to answer them anymore because a bunch of people have them now.
Mhm.
So it's really cool.
Very cool. And then, what phones are you, if you buy a fully built
Mhm.
Cellhasher, what phones are people getting? And if you're someone who understands
Mhm.
hash rates and stuff, what is like a Varus hash rate for the whole box, and then what is the power consumption for a box?
Yeah, no, great question. So the phones that we're putting in there are actually Orbic Joys, the original. The reason we did it was because when I first built my personal ones, I used AO3Ss and then I found Orbic Joys, and Orbic Joys were just more seamless and easier for me to work with.
Hmm.
And I was able to find them at scale for a long period of time. So that's why we're using Orbic Joys in them currently. It could change. We've been looking at, for those of you who are doing the DIY option, we've been looking at Propel 5G, excuse me, Summit 5Gs, and then we've also been looking at HMD Vibes. The unique thing about those phones is they do support Ethernet.
Mm.
So you don't have to worry about connections to your router, which has been kind of a common thing where some people don't have like a strong router, or they have a router that there's a ton of devices connected on in their house. So like the Orbic Joys, for example, are great. They're very efficient and they get a great just base hash rate for Varus, which is 120 mega hash on Varus,
Hmm.
which is right around $1.50 a day currently
Hmm.
on Varus. Varus did have a halving,
Hmm.
so that was in January, so the rewards have came down. But with Varus 2, you also get a few other coins. Not that they're really worth anything, but it's chips, it's Dex, and then it's R, which is Pirate Chain, which is like a Monero Zcash type privacy chain.
I like
So
pirate
yeah,
chain.
yeah. So you can just arg that's the name of it. But yeah, you can get all those coins just by mining Varus directly to your Varus wallet. So even if you don't think you're getting those coins, as long as you're on one of the main pools like Luck Pool or Viper is the other one,
Mhm.
you're actually getting those sent to your wallet. You just have to add that coin to your actual like Varus wallet.
Mhm.
The Varus wallet is kind of hard to navigate.
Yeah.
I think you probably experienced that, and
Yeah. It's yeah. They promise like DeFi or whatever,
yeah,
but
it's clunky. It's
no
very yes.
normal person outside of a crypto person is going to figure it
Yeah,
out.
yeah. Sadly, it's hard. So like I swap here and there to Bitcoin
Mm.
on their
Yep.
chain, and that's what I've been kind of doing is
Yep.
I'll keep some of the Varus, and I did for a while, and I'm thankful because when I started Varus mining, Varus was actually at 30 cents, and then it actually had that uptick all the way almost to $5 at one point, but it was like
Mm.
350 was like the average, and thankfully I wasn't converting anything at that point. But nowadays it's just like okay. We know how it all works. At
Mm.
the end of the day, we just want to stack sats.
Yep.
Everybody wants to get more Bitcoin.
Yep.
And I think that's a very safe and fair assumption. And I think even if it's $1 or $1.50 a day now that you're making, if you're putting that into Bitcoin day in and day out, once Bitcoin hits $1 million, that's you're doing a lot better than that dollar becomes $10 a day that you're actually mining, right?
Yep.
So there's different strategies, of course, with that. But yeah, 120 mega hash. The Orbic Joys are in the box currently.
And how
Yep.
many watts?
Oh, yes, 100 watts.
Yep.
If you turn the screens off, which is just a click in the
Yeah.
software button, it's actually 90 watts too.
That's awesome.
You can tweak, and I've seen people that have been trying to mess with the voltage a little bit to see how low can I power the voltage to the phones before they kind of like turn off or their hash rate doesn't,
Yep.
you know, get where they want. So there is some senses of like you can tinker a little more and overclock the PSU because there's a variable potentiometer in there.
Mhm.
Your range is only about 4.5 to 5.1, but then we include a blue 50 ohms potentiometer, which allows you to go from ranges around 4.2 then to then 5.25. I wouldn't recommend going higher than like 5.2 unless you actually have phones that do need it, as our boards aren't really designed to go higher than 5.2. Um, but it is a variable option if you're a tinker and you want to, potentially destroy the board or, do some overclocking, undervolting, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Very cool. So when I last had you on the podcast, at the time, maybe you had just finished, doing that spec mining that we covered in that podcast, or you were still doing it. But at that time, it was like per cell
Yes,
hasher,
sir.
it was $40 a day. And then, you just mentioned Varus, which right now is $1.50 a
Mhm.
day.
Yep.
Just in the past, what are a few of the like dollar amounts, people with various things have earned with these? And then later in this, I want to talk about what are current,
Sure.
ones. But I just want to get some idea of what in the past you've seen people
Yep.
earn with the devices.
Yeah. So we had when Shia came out, that's when we had our last, or she was ended when we had our last podcast. And the reason the $40 came to fruition was because I had mined Shia for about a month and a half when I was hitting solo blocks before hash rate all jumped on after that episode. But then it also got listed too, like literally a few days before we had that episode, and it averaged out to literally slightly over $40 a day. Shia unfortunately hasn't done absolutely nothing since then. So people just, don't mind those things.
Yep.
Then you have your projects like Scala that have been around for a while. There hasn't really been like a good CPU mineable coin. There's been a few on XMR. I think there's one like Tari
That's yeah.
is that kind of familiar?
Yeah.
That has like, it runs on RandomX algorithm, and I think people have been doing pretty good. I don't know the number on what they've been doing because I haven't personally been able to do it. But a lot of people now are strictly doing the other apps with it. They're mining Varus, but then they're also doing the watching and survey apps and stuff like that.
Yeah, and so like on the topic of all these things you can do with it, you also, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I know you shared this in Sleep Money Club. I know you shared this in your community. You have like a master spreadsheet of like a million different like non-crypto things you could potentially do on the phones. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so we call that the beer money list. It was actually designed and developed, but put together by professional phone farmers that are not in crypto. These are people that have been running only about 20 phones for the last 5 to 10 years and making around $30,000 a year off their 10 to 20 phones.
That's crazy.
So it's a massive list of things that they have done, and it shows you the apps, and they actually have categorized by like, this app is probably not good, this app is good, this app is risky, and there's plenty of different things from social casinos to, to the ad watching apps, to clicking style apps, to video watching, to everything. It's all listed there. It's something that is so big that I don't know if I'll ever have time to get through all of it. It's that big, which is crazy. There's also one more list that is actually on the cellhasher.com website that is for hash rates. Community has submitted well over 200 phones already of hash rates that they've tested on Varus, which is kind of the benchmark that they test them on. But you can go there and potentially type in a phone you're looking for or searching for and see what it was making. Granted, if it says the Varus Miner app, we do have what mining software they were using, whether it's in Termux or CC Miner. CC Miner is the Linux-based app that we use in Cellhasher. You'll get more hash rate running it in the terminal versus using the actual Varus app. So if it says Varus app on there, just know that your hash rate is going to be slightly lower than if you were using CC Miner.
Very good. So yes, that spreadsheet, very, very cool resource in Luke's community and mine. So definitely check that out too.
But
what are a lot of people in the past? What have they earned? I guess there's like outsized with $35 in a single day, but that's probably not typical. But what's more typical that people have earned with all those various non-crypto earning apps?
Non-crypto earning apps, so just crypto earning apps?
No,
excuse me,
just the non-crypto ones, like ad watching, video watching.
This is kind of crazy, but it's going to require you, if you don't know how to make your own scripts and stuff, to literally sit there at the phone and manually click. I mean, if you have our software, you can do it from a computer, and you could probably get a macro server. And now that I think about it, just a macro on the computer that can just run and click position wise, X and Y coordinates. But yeah, so the guy Stacy that I was mentioning, he had a $42 day, on just May 26th, and then 2 days later, literally on May 20th, so a couple days ago, he literally posted he has like $35 day, and he's just doing surveys and watching video ads, and that's on a single device. He has 6 devices now that he's doing, but yeah, he actually just uses our software and doesn't even have a box currently. So that is another option that you can do, is like if you have phones and you want to just test them first before purchasing, that's completely fine to do. But yeah, so they're doing that. Acarest is another one, even though it is crypto DPIN related, but the server hosting for Minecraft server hosting has done really well for the other person. He's averaging around $150 to $300 a month, depending on if people are actually renewing their servers or not. And it's really cool because like in the Cellhasher, you have 160 cores theoretically, and then 60 gigabytes of RAM. With just, when I say that, I'm basing it off the pre-configured one that we do. But if people do the DIY one and then they go and get a device that has 8 gigabytes of RAM, and it's probably going to have 8 cores, it's probably not going to have more than 8 cores, but you have more storage server, or basically server space that you can dish out to people and have more servers. all running still at 90 to 100 watts, which is awesome. But
So the Minecraft server, so how uh how is
yep.
he getting the word out that he can host someone's Minecraft server to like get paid to do that?
So he's just doing it on X, and then he has a website that he's building.
Okay.
It's not finished yet, but he's been just saying, "Hey, I'm hosting Minecraft servers on X," and he has a few friends that he hosts for.
Okay.
So I don't know how well he's advertising it,
Mm.
but that's just what he's been up to lately, and that's something I want to do. Is like I would love to host
Mhm.
just a Cellhasher Minecraft server, just to show people that like you can host servers on this. Like you could host your website. Like ZZ Money Cloud could be hosted on a Cellhasher
That'd be crazy.
for 90 watts.
That'd be wild.
And then you wouldn't have to pay your server fee or whatever you're paying it. But yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, that's
Yep.
one of the things I love about this. Like, obviously, this is a more specialized tool for doing all these things.
Mhm.
But basically everything we've discussed, if you just have extra phones, you can do all these things. But, Cellhasher helps you scale it, helps you automate quite a bit
Yeah.
of it, helps you do it more efficiently and not have the battery, risks and stuff. But that's one of the reasons I love the cell phone stuff, because it's not an ASIC. Like, you
Yes,
can't,
correct.
we can only do one single task. It's just, you can literally do a million different things. Whatever you can dream up to do on a phone, you
Mhm.
can do with this thing, which is super cool. So, talking about some of the earning potential in the past, and again, we'll talk more about what's currently happening. Last time I had you on the podcast did really well.
Mhm.
Numerous comments about,
Sure.
this is BS. It's impossible to make $40 a day with cell phones. The only thing you can mine with a cell phone is Varus. You
Mhm.
can't do anything else. Lots and lots of people, saying that this is not true. It's not
Mhm.
possible. What do you say to that feeling?
Yeah. It's a great assumption too, though. I think it's good to be skeptical at
Yeah.
first.
Mhm.
I think one thing in crypto, and maybe you've learned it, is sometimes when you jump in a little more and you have like just a higher risk tolerance,
Mm.
sometimes it pans out. As long as you're staying away from maybe like meme coins.
Mm.
But yeah, so like Varus is a common like misconception that it only does Varus, because that's just where all the content that you see
Yeah.
online about phones is, Varus pops up. Believe it or not, like if you mined Varus, Varus has been around since like 2018. If you mined Varus since 2018 with just one cell hasher, there's a good chance you'd make over $100,000 already. Like
Way more than $40 a day
way more than $40 a day averaged out.
on cell phones.
And I started in 2023, and I had roughly about 600 phones at a given time running Varus and a few others doing other things, and did thankfully very well, over six figures in that manner.
Mhm.
But that was without converting too. So I will say I definitely got lucky, because there's been times where I was like, okay, I'm gonna sell my earnings now. But that was also with price appreciation. It's kind of like Bitcoin mining today. I shouldn't compare Varus to Bitcoin. I really should not, and there's no comparison to that. But people have often been scared to get into like Bitcoin mining, because there's a halving, there's more hash rate on the network. Well, what has Bitcoin done? It's only gone up. So like there's never like a dull time to just get into mining in general. So Varus is no exception to that. It is like a higher market cap coin, actually. It's actually over $200 million
Mhm.
FTV. And it does have halvings. So it does have like a deflationary aspect, and does have its own ecosystem. To be completely fair, I really don't know how Varus actually does it, or how they even have 200 million FDV.
Yeah.
I have my thoughts on it. I think Varus is great, right? Because obviously it's been good for business, and it
Mhm.
works for the phones. And thankfully I've been able to, make great money with Varus as well. So that's definitely one of the misconceptions with that. But the making $40 a day thing, like that's you doing the work and searching. Like I think, sure, if you have like a 9 to 5 traditionally, and you come home and you're tired, you probably don't want to, do the work. You want to just go watch a video that somebody tells you how to do it.
Yep.
Normally by the time that somebody like tells you how to do it, not in every case scenario, but
Mhm.
the majority of time, if you end up seeing like 20 videos on YouTube all of a sudden and you see it's 1 month ago, and you're watching it, you're probably slightly late.
Mm.
You can still get in, and there's still like chances, but oftentimes people don't really want to like actually do the work that it takes. Like it is a job.
Yep.
Like thankfully mining is kind of more sit and forget, but once you find the thing that you want to mine, it is kind of a risk versus reward. So that's like the people who mined Bitcoin first, right? They're billionaires right now, millionaires for sure. right? The people who mined Verus first did very well. They had hundreds of thousands of dollars. The people who mined Ethereum first. So it's, finding, everybody wants to be early to things too. So how do you be early to things? Well, you got to do the work and you got to research it, right? So, that's what I have to say to that. Definitely it's okay to be skeptical.
Yep.
And sure, $40 a day is definitely tough to get to. And some of that could be with price appreciation as well. So what is your strategy? Is your strategy to instantly sell upon getting it, or maybe selling for your electric and then keeping what you have to stack, or converting it to another currency? There's so many different strategies and ways to go about it. But an interesting one that I will share with people here if they watch your podcast is going to be probably Acrast. And the reason I say this is because Acrast has been in testnet now for about a year, slightly longer, and they're going into mainnet here in Q3. That's what they've said. They do have the ability to change that, but they did recently have their pre-sale for only 6% of their supply, and they oversold it. The 6% of supply went for $5.5 million in pre-sale, which means at a billion tokens, which is what they have at 100%, that's a 90 million FDV market cap off the go. So the testnet tokens, from what we've known and what we say, will sort of have a conversion. Whether it's 1-to-1 is to be determined. I would guess that it's 1-to-1 based on the math and how it checks out, at least in my head, meaning that each token is worth 9 cents currently. Well, one phone gets 250 CACU tokens. So C stands for Canary. It's a testnet. ACU tokens on the network currently. So you can be doing Verus mining to, make like $1, cover your electric, and then also have Acrast running in the background in the light version in testnet currently doing 250 CSU tokens each. What that accounts to
is that per month?
Excuse me. Yes, per month, 250 tokens per month.
Yep.
That's like 22.5 tokens a day, or per Cellhasher device. So that's $450 of potential earnings when mainnet happens in conversion
per device. Per Cellhasher.
Per Cellhasher. So a full set of 20 phones. That's pretty good. But why does that happen? Well, people did the work. They were early, and people went on the network. They're doing good. And it is good to see and research like what you're actually doing on your devices. For example, like Scala, they were just kind of nonsense, bloatware that you put on and mine. They didn't really turn into anything. I guess I shouldn't be too harsh. They tried, right? All you can do sometimes is try, and the market maybe not have been right. But thankfully, with how the markets are, I think Q3 is going to be a great time for Acrast to launch. They've been hitting a lot of milestones, getting a lot of actual like partnerships and stuff. They actually just got a partnership with the Solana mobile phone too.
That's
so
cool.
They're going to have just the Acrast app preloaded on the Solana mobile phone coming up too. So like they're decent, like they're big. They have LLMs now too that they're working on. So that also means that they've solved the problem that I've been trying to solve with running actual AI language models on all series of 20 phones very efficiently.
That's cool.
We've definitely helped with that a little bit, but we'll get into that, I'm sure.
Yeah. So getting back to the like making, $40 a day or whatever per, what it comes down to is one, just being a more experienced crypto person, understanding what goes into that. But two, it's really just like putting in the work. And most people, like you said, they see cell phone hashing, cell phone mining. They search on YouTube. They see, it says Verus, and that's just what they assume. And they see what the Verus today's earnings are based on that one, one video. But what all is spec mining, speculative mining.
Correct.
Acrast and other things depends those, speculative earning, not mining directly.
Yeah. Speculative compute.
Yeah, but just
like that. Yeah.
Finding stuff that you think is an opportunity, being early, accumulating it, and then when the thing launches or it hits an exchange, you make a lot of money in the process. A great example of this in my own personal crypto journey is in 2018, Flux launched. I was there the week Flux launched. I was scouring the Bitcoin Talk altcoin announcement forums.
Wow.
I saw the post. I go, this is cool. It was Zellcash at the time. It hadn't been named Flux yet. And I was mining with GPUs, which, if I tell anybody making $50 a day with a 6 or 8 card GPU rig, that's impossible. Well, at that stage, I was mining like 1,000 Flux or something a day per GPU rig.
Holy smokes.
Well, in 2021, Flux hit $3.30. So I was making, $3,000 a day from a single GPU rig. Now, the caveat here is, one, a lot of them fail.
Mhm.
So you have to choose the right ones. You have to put in the work and pick a bunch of them and go for it. But two, I mined and I held until it was worth, the higher
Yeah.
amounts of money. So there's lots of caveats here, but it's like asinine to me to
Yeah.
think that people are like, it's impossible. Absolutely not.
I will say that like that aspect of like holding
Yes.
is pretty hard for some people.
Sure.
I will say that in my own experience and probably your experience, I've made more money from holding
Mhm.
than I have from just trying to sell and convert right
Yeah.
away. It doesn't happen all the time, but I believe the wealth, instead of just making a quick pile of cash, came from holding versus actually selling right away.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, like you said, do your due diligence, make sure the projects that you're holding are what you believe to be good projects, of course. But yeah, no, that's really cool. Wow, what a cool story.
Yeah, and there's been other ones too which have been great, but that's why I love crypto, because
Yeah.
you've literally experienced this.
Yep.
I know a bunch of other people. This is something that happens, but you can also be more conservative. Like
Mhm.
there are people who are just hate on the idea of like mining and holding. It's like
Yeah.
that's bad. It's like, well, if you have the tolerance and you can
Mhm.
you're willing to lose money or whatever, you can go for it. But you can also do what you kind of suggested earlier, which is, if you're earning multiple things on the devices,
Correct.
you can sell one to cover cost and then
Mhm.
hold the other one, or you can even just like sell a portion of each one
Yes,
each
sir.
month, but then have a portion of it that's your longer term hold.
Mhm.
There's a bunch of different ways you can slice it depending on what you think is best for you, but it's like crazy to for people in my mind to go, this is impossible. You can't earn this
Mhm.
because it's fact. You absolutely can, but newsflash, sorry, it takes work. That's
Yeah.
the secret. Like a lot of things with success
Right.
involved.
Yep. A lot of people don't want to, when they're doing good, they don't want to tell you what they're doing good, because what happens? All the people who don't do work start like, oh, hop on. I'll tell my buddy to hop on. And then some of the earnings might start coming down. So
Yep.
a lot of the opportunities that are out there, there's always opportunities. Is you literally have to do the work, because nobody's really going to tell you if they're making like absolutely crazy money.
Mhm.
Obviously, unless they're the business that is selling the machines. So in my case, telling people that you can do this project is beneficial. Um, to be completely fair, I do believe I could make a ton more money just doing my own phone mining and never selling a Cellhasher ever again. Like, I do believe that it'd be way more beneficial for me to do that. Uh, but I got kind of caught up in the selling the machine things,
Mhm.
and I think doing it that way has been great because it's led to more connections, more people in the industry. So from just a perspective of growth and networking, it's been absolutely amazing. But I would never have done it if it was an ASIC machine. Like, you'll never see me making a Bitcoin ASIC. You'll never see me making a Litecoin ASIC. It has to be utilitarianism or utility based, where people can use it for multiple things. Where, like you said, say Cellhasher, God forbid, goes out of business, or say I pass away, all of a sudden,
Mhm.
like, it doesn't just end right there.
Mhm.
So, and to be honest, I like staying out of. This is gonna be kind of funny. I like staying out of making cryptos,
Mm.
or like making blockchains per se. And the reason I say that's funny is because I helped launch Bell's Coin
Mhm.
a prior year past, because I'm a Litecoin developer and a script developer. But other than that, for the machines wise, only just being able to do it yourself has been probably the best option. So
Yeah. Which, as an aside,
yeah.
I got my L9s, about to get another L9.
Okay.
And I have those primarily because I want to get a bunch of Dogecoin, but also because of this me meeting Luke and learning all about Bell's Coin and stuff. I also been just stacking the Bell's Coin, which has worked out really well for me so
Cool.
far. So I'm
Yeah.
hopefully this altcoin season happens, and that's
Yeah.
even better. So if you do the lowest hanging fruit right now with the Cellhasher, and you do Varus coin,
Yeah.
so that's going to net you $30, $40, $50 a month, something like that
Yep.
right now. And you can also, on each of the phones, while mining Varus, you can also run the Accurast Lite
Correct.
client, and based on these, back of the napkin math,
Yes.
that could be about $450 a month once
Yep.
mainnet happens.
Yep.
So just based on those two things, which, there's lots of other things you can do with these devices, you could be at $500 a month per Cellhasher right now.
Correct. Yeah, it's making me think the prices that I have on these units here. I'm just joking, but yeah, like that's the truth. Is you can literally do multiple things with them. Testnet now, so I'm going to encourage people to actually hop on Accuras because it's no additional. It's like merge mining with an L9, where you mine Litecoin as the parent chain, and you get Dogecoin, Bellscoin, and a whole plethora of
15
ones.
other things.
Right.
Yeah.
So in the same way that you can do that, you mine Verus, which actually has merged my coins. So you can pay off your electric, stack, a little bit of money there. And then at no additional cost, run the Accuras Lite app for just a chance at something that could math into that equation where you're making $450 from Accuras. And those numbers are all public. Like they posted it. It was on CoinList. It's all in their Medium post and in their Discord. So you guys can do the math if you want to as well. Like it's right there for you guys.
Yeah, I want to make 2 points really clear that I think are really important to reiterate again based on what you just said. Number one, do not listen to this conversation and go, I'm gonna, everything they're saying is true.
Yeah.
Because one, a lot of people will watch this and go, that's BS, or a lot of people go, I'm just gonna do that because they said it. Like, to the skeptics and to the believers, you can go verify all this on your own if you just put in the work. So go look at the tokenomics and all the information about Accuras and what they're doing, and verify what you can do with a single phone yourself. And the same with Verus. Go plug the numbers into a calculator, look at the actual returns right now.
Yeah, and you don't need to have a full box of 20 phones.
Yeah,
you can just get your own phone that you have laying in a drawer and do it today. You don't need a Cellhasher to do it.
Yeah.
I'm going to encourage you to get a Cellhasher because of just management and you don't have to worry about the batteries after a year or so. But even with the Cellhasher unit, you can get the DIY option, which is why I love it, because then you can go and find your own phones, because every phone is different.
Yep.
Every phone has a different configuration, a different chipset, different amount of RAM, different amount of computability. So you can just plug it in, and you can just do one phone to start, and you could try to scale it up to 20 phones there if you want to do it that way. So I think leaving it as a DIY versus a pre-configured, I never wanted to do pre-configured phones. The thing is people wanted it. Everybody didn't want to do the work. Everybody didn't want to do the work, but it does definitely make it easier. Not on me, but on you guys for sure.
Yeah, and that was my second point, is just I am not doing this podcast to convince you to give Luke money. Although I'd love you to, because I like Luke a lot and I love the product. But everything we're talking about here, again, you can literally do on your own devices, on your own phones. And if you want a Cellhasher, you can also go the DIY route and just buy an enclosure from him for a very reasonable price. And then you, of course, have to do the work. And it's not, if you're not a technical person, it takes a little bit of, a learning curve. But if you, like all these things, you want the flexibility and you don't want to do that work, you can also buy a pre-configured one.
Correct. Yeah.
So talk to me about the DIY route versus the pre-built route.
Yeah. So the DIY route, I would actually recommend to everybody too. Simply because what does that get you to do? It actually gets you to do the work and learn how it actually functions and works. I think that's most important. Even for Bitcoin today, I wish people actually knew how ASIC works. ASICs, how ASICs work, how they're manufactured, because you really, at the end of the day, you do want to know what you're plugging in to your home. Unfortunately, there's a lot of bloatware. There's a lot of just bad products and service out there, to where you don't want to actually plug it in because it can be secretly mining on your other devices or things to that. But the DIY route allows you to literally get any phone you want. And I'll just recommend phones off the bat. Summit 5G is cheap. It's good. Propel is cheap. It's good. Orbit Joys are cheaper. It's good. And then HMD Vibes are cheaper. It's good. 3 of those have Ethernet: the HMD Vibe, the Summit, and the Propel. Those are all prepaid phones that you can get from your local Walmart or Target. So if you do the math right there, you can see how much cheaper it'll be for you to do that versus buying the pre-configured option. The reason the price is where it's at is because of just the labor that it goes into it. So the DIY option, in my opinion, is a great option because you're actually learning the stuff. You have to do the work, and then it forces you to, actually get your hands into actual crypto on a physical level. Yeah.
Yeah, that's people have also commented like, why is if I do the math on the enclosure and then buying the phones myself, it's cheaper than buying the
Yeah.
he has 7 people in the company and they have an assembly line. They
Yes.
they hit that companies cost money and companies have to make money in order to not go out of business. That's just how it works. So what level of expertise or technical know-how do you need if you're going to go the DIY route, or do you need to learn to go that route?
So thankfully, since we've been in business now for 2 years, we do have documents, and there are some videos out there. I do need to, get my stuff together and get some more videos out there for people that are just more seamless. But there are written documents for people to help and understand how to check the voltage on your phones, how you can set the power supply, how to take out the batteries, how to solder your cables together, the few options you have. So it is all written documentation that's, I would say, easy, but it might not be easy at first glance. Again, you just have to do it and search it. It's really not that hard. Like, to be completely honest, I had never actually done extensive soldering other than a few pieces here and there throughout my life until Cellhasher. A lot of people actually don't want to do the soldering, but we also provide kits that are an additional thing that you can grab, disassembly kits for your phones, a solder kit, and then actually a multimeter as well. So you have everything you need if you go the DIY route to get it done. So
Yeah, yeah, regardless, which route you go here, or if you even do any of this, those who actually attempt this, especially the DIY route. I don't know. I feel like that's one of the wonderful things about crypto, and when you're running nodes or you're doing even with buying an ASIC and learning how to plug in your pool and what pools are, or going this the Cellhasher route and disconnecting components from phones and plugging them in and learning how to interface with software. I don't know. I just feel like there's a whole bunch of really valuable skills that you learn through all of this
yes.
stuff that you can then apply to a bunch of other areas of crypto, but also a bunch of other areas of life. And it's just, I don't know. I feel like this stuff is highly valuable. And if you do it correctly,
Yeah.
you can make a lot of money in the process.
You can. I think something that's also cool is we recently had a connection to Micro Center, and they're actually testing our product to potentially have them in retail stores.
Cellhashers in retail?
Potentially.
That's crazy.
They're testing the product to see how easy it is for them, right? So they don't really do that with a lot of crypto products, but since Cellhasher isn't technically a crypto project, it's more of just a series of computers and phones. It fits their description. So yeah, we've been working not side by side, but they've been testing it in their research and development lab, and it's actually listed on their website. And I highly encourage you to go click it because it will help get them in the stores, because they are definitely testing how many people are actually coming and searching for this product on their store.
Maybe I can link that below and everybody can go click the link.
Thank you. That'd be awesome. Another thing I'll say too is the DIY option, the prices on that are very good. And the reason I'll say that is because when we went to get things manufactured in the United States, I realized how cheap we were actually selling these, because we were having them made overseas, which was a lot cheaper than having them made here. So if you wanted to try making it here, and you reach out to a PCB manufacturer, you reach out to metal fabricators, and then a power supply company that does the PSUs, all in all, you're going to be looking at around $400 just to get a machine set in stone, built in America. So the prices are very reasonable in that range for the DIY option. And honestly, also for the pre-configured, it's very reasonable as well. Even though it looks unreasonable, it averages out to around $90 a phone in the series of 20 phones for the pre-configured. That's really cheap. And when we reached out to a phone manufacturer overseas to even have just multiple phones manufactured, the MOQ, so minimum order quantity, was 100,000 phones at $90 a piece. And that was without being able to change any specs. That was with their specs.
That's wild.
So that'd been $9 million that have to cough up just in that. So right then and there, these prepaid phones that you can get are actually a very good deal, because the reason they're selling them so cheap is these companies are actually taking a loss on the devices to try to get you to sign up for the service, right? But thankfully, you can bypass that and you can just use it with Wi-Fi or with Ethernet at your home, at least in the Cellhasher units. But yeah.
So on average, what do these phones cost if you buy them yourself individually?
In terms of like the Orbic Joys, in terms of like if somebody's going to do it themselves,
someone's going to do it themselves, and they go to the store and they buy a prepaid phone.
Sure.
What are they paying on average?
I'd say around $35.
$35. Yeah.
So 3 times 2, 5. You're right around $650, $700 completed. Add another $100 for the actual Cellhasher unit, $150. $800 versus $1,600. You cut the price in half.
Yep.
So you just got to do the work then.
Yeah. So the DIY, just the enclosure, what's the price of that right now?
So the basic one, the classic, is I believe $150.
Yep.
It might be $160. I think it's $150. I think it's $149 something.
And a fully pre-configured one shipped ready to go to your door is $1,600?
$1,600.
Yep.
I think you do get a good discount though by using Andy's stuff too. It's like 5 or 10%. I don't know at the moment what it is or anything like that.
Yes.
I think your ZZ Money Club also has.
So yeah, I will with a link to all this stuff down below. I will also put a discount code that Luke has very graciously given me for all of you. But if you do want a bigger discount, I will also pitch Sleep Money Club, join Sleep Money Club, which Luke is a member of Sleep Money Club. He's in there helping people out and stuff. Our members are like sharing their all the things.
It's surprisingly really well made. I was not expecting when I got in there to help people out how well it was put together. So
well, thank you.
Not a shameless plug. Like that's true honesty. It's very well thought out and put together. So, yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. So yeah, I feel like you have a ton of options here from DIY route to the pre-configured. But one of the things I really love about the DIY route, one is you have a very reasonable price on just the enclosure. But two, if you're someone who doesn't want to spend $800 to $1,600 for 20 phone, either DIY one or a 20 phone pre-configured, you can buy a Cellhasher.
Yes.
The enclosure. You can buy one phone.
Yes.
Plug in one single phone, which will sip 5 watts, 6 watts, whatever it is, and you can just learn for $200.
Yeah, basically, and like, say Accuras does what we believe it will do, that one phone could potentially make $20 a month.
Yeah,
and right there you pay off the phone and almost the Cellhasher in less than a year.
Yeah, on
one device, and you can scale up from there. So yeah.
And there's been even crazier opportunities. So you might get super lucky and pick the right combination of things, and you might make all your money back from that one phone and device in 1 to 3 months or something. Who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, I just that's one of the reasons I love cell phone mining and I love the Cellhashers, because I feel like the barrier to entry is, as long as you're willing to put in a bit of work with the technical stuff, the barrier to entry as far as cost is really, really low, which makes it really accessible. Plus, it doesn't matter if you have crazy California electricity rates,
right?
Or if you have the cheapest,
Thankfully, I would highly. I mean, we have people actually that run these on solar panels, so they have a 120 watt, 150 watt solar panel, and they just hook up their Cellhasher and they're mining for free. All the compute's for free at that point. So cool.
Yeah, I love that. And then one other thing, we've talked about it a little bit, but I want to get back to this point because I think this is really important. A lot of people also, in the last podcast are like, I'm tired of crypto devices that never pay off. Again, this is not a crypto device.
It honestly really isn't.
And I would maybe elaborate on this, but there's a lot of people in your own personal community that don't do anything crypto related with this.
Yep. Yeah, they don't touch it at all. They're always chatting in the farm apps. And they've been actually getting into crypto because of the other people who do crypto with it. But some of the people who are actually making more money on the Cellhasher come from outside the crypto community because they're, running servers, they're hosting websites, they're running, whether it's against terms of service on a few platforms, plays and likes and, botting different posts. And then you have the people that are watching watching ad apps and then doing survey apps, making sometimes a lot more money than the people doing crypto, which I wish was the other way around. But at the end of the day, like, it's just another point of what you can do. So,
and if we, we get into a bull run, we get into an alt season.
Oh, sure. Like that's the whole thing of it. The only reason why Shia worked out for me was because it got on an exchange. We started getting into the bull market. So people were kind of getting hyped up. And it's not to say that, another coin or CPU mineable coin won't pop up. There is one, the Tari with RandomX that I need to check out because I was getting messages. They're like, hey, have you done this yet? I heard so and so is making this much with it, and it was a decent amount. Nothing like crazy, but yeah.
Because any crypto that is, earlier stage or any
Mhm.
crypto that's launching that is, CPU mineable,
Yes.
you
Is
could.
is is mineable on a Cellhasher. Granted, you might have to have a beefier device for some, like RandomX is more memory intensive. So if you get a device that has a lot of older prepaid devices will have 3 gigabytes of RAM, but if you get a device that has 4 gigabytes of RAM, you can actually run a version of, I think, what is RandomX Miner? XMRig
Excellent.
that
Yeah.
has kind of like a lighter version of their software to where it's not as memory intensive.
Mm,
So there are other options to run those memory intensive ones on a smaller, memory and device that you have.
mhm,
But yeah, at the end of the day, you can do any of the CPU mineable coins. I've been trying for the longest time to actually get compiled stuff for like Wart,
mm,
which is a CPU. It has Varus hash as its CPU algo, but then it has a GPU algo as well. I
mm.
think it's Janus hash or something like that as
Okay.
the GPU algo. Um, Theoretically, it is possible with the phones. I just haven't been able to crack it myself. So if you're smart, I'm looking at potentially like Son of a Tech over there. You should do that. You should get it compiled for us, please.
I talked about like you've told me a little bit,
Mhm.
about the like solo mining like opportunity with these devices too.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Yeah. So there's a few different routes for solo mining. One to kind of play off the topic that we just discussed is when these new CPU mineable coins come out, I'd highly recommend you stay off the pools in the first week.
Mm,
Solo mine because you have a great chance at stacking the whole block reward. And that has worked out for me many times over. An example of this actually for me that really worked was actually Junk Coin, which is a script based coin.
mm,
I mined these on my cell hashers within 2 days of it coming out, and I was still getting blocks before the script ASICs came out because none of the pools have it integrated.
yeah,
There was a few people that tried to spin up pools and get people on it, but I was getting enough blocks. It didn't turn into anything crazy, but I was able to make $200-300 in 1 to 2 days
that's cool.
off like 3 cell hashers. But still,
That's awesome.
it was fun, and that was a script based coin, which is an ASIC dominated thing. So solo mining is very beneficial for any CPU mineable coin when it comes terms to, when they first launch. I think solo mining will be more popular in the future, even with Bitcoin. I That's my prediction actually, is I do believe we'll have a lot more solo miners coming onto the network, which is great because everybody likes a little lottery.
Hmm.
And at the end of the day, like when I see Bitcoin now, I see Bitcoin as at least $1 million.
Hmm.
So any Bitcoin that I can get, I'm fine with it. So if I'm solo mining now and the block reward is 3.125 Bitcoin and I earn slightly over $300,000, I see that as $3 million today. That's just how my brain works.
Hmm.
Um, Whether that's good or bad, I don't know, but it has worked for me in the past. But yeah, so you can actually solo mine theoretically Bitcoin with this. I wouldn't recommend it. There's plenty of other great solo mining devices, like just get an S9 or an S19 or even one of the newest ASICs or a BitAxe,
Hmm.
and they're going to be way more efficient than the phones are at solo mining Bitcoin. But that is definitely an option that you can do.
Yeah. Yeah. Like again, just to reiterate, like the
Mhm.
cell hasher, it's just a tool.
It is.
Like all the profitability, all of the
Yep.
wild ideas that Lucas shared are just up to you and your creativity and
Yep.
imagination and tenacity and work
Mhm.
ethic and all that good stuff.
Yes.
Because you can use this for whatever weird thing in the world of crypto or non-crypto, earning that you can come up with. And there's probably things that Luke hasn't even covered that he hasn't even thought about that you could use this tool for. So
Mhm.
that's why I like something like this because it's truly kind of open-ended, just
Yeah,
like
no, figure
having,
some things out for us, please. Like,
yeah.
get creative on it, do some crazy stuff, and, by all means, go from there.
So, here at the very end of the podcast, again, we mentioned it before, but I'll let Luke remind you if you are interested in buying a cell hasher, how do you do that?
So yeah, it's thankfully it's a great name, cellhasher.com. You can go to it. They have an X account where you can get to the website, but cellhasher.com, that's CELL and then hasher .com. Yeah, you can send us a link. We are currently sold out. I'm not sure when this airs, but I'm sure we'll have stock very shortly. So yeah,
Nice.
I actually have something to give you. Actually, it's a collectible, 2 collectibles.
Very cool.
This is a BTC trading card. These are very limited edition. This is actually last year's Nashville Music City one. There's only like a few thousand of these printed that they actually limited of 500. It says right on the back
even
there.
more rare.
So yeah, I just want to. I know you're a collector, and I know you love Bitcoin.
Yeah, this is
Slightly
super
more
cool.
than the coins that I develop in. So we'll give you a Bitcoin card.
I love it.
And then this is also a BTC magazine and BTC card exclusive, where you could only get it if you got the Freedom Edition subscription of their magazine.
Very cool.
So yeah, just want to say thanks for everything you're doing. And I've watched your content actually for a while, and I'm not going to lie, your content has helped me out too. So
well, I appreciate that. It's been really cool meeting you. I'll share those on there. You can check that out, how cool that is. I love it. Limited edition Bitcoin cards. That is something Bitcoin trading cards. That's something I never thought I would say, and I love that exists.
Cool. Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah.
Well, this has been awesome. I always love having you on the podcast. I'm a big fan of what you are building. I'm a big fan of the opportunities you can use it for. So as per always, I will link to all that stuff, all the places you can find Luke, where to follow him, where to get the Cellhasher, that discount code, a link to Sleep Money Club with the even bigger discount code if you're interested in that, all down below. But Luke, thank you for the cards. Thanks for showing up here in Vegas in person and being on the podcast.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the time.
And thanks to you for listening and watching this episode. I'll see you in the next one.